International Marathon Swimming Hall of Fame for honoring me. I mean, I can't say this is the greatest honor I think I've ever had in my life, and also one of the biggest surprises. I have to say, when I got Dale's email, I mean, it just came out of the blue. I was just so pleasantly surprised. The first thing I did, of course, was call my mother. So, Steve Munatones, thank you for all the work you do for our sport, putting this event together, the conference. Thank you. You're awesome. I also want to thank a lot of my friends that have been with me since the very beginning of my channel swimming time. Bob West is kind of the icon, the king of the La Jolla Cove, and it was his big booming baritone voice, "Well, Ann, when are you going to swim your first channel?" that kind of got me inspired to try and book my first Catalina channel attempt. John York, Paula Selby, David Clark, Carol Singh, you're here today. Thank you for everything from the bottom of my heart. You've seen me through the worst and the best. And Jim McConaughey, another mentor of mine, he gave me a lot of mental insights to help me get through these swims. And one of the best little hints he gave me was to be sure and wear a high-neck swimsuit, especially for the English Channel, because there's all these little jellyfish there. And so he was worried that a jellyfish would sneak down the hole in the front of the suit and get inside my swimsuit. And I'm like, Jim, I've lived in the ocean my whole life. I've never been stung by a jellyfish. That's ridiculous. That'll never happen. Well, of course, there I was on my first English Channel swim, fishing a jellyfish out of the front of my suit. I'm going to have to tell Jim he was right. So, yeah, thank you to all of you. You helped me from the very beginning of my journey till now, where I stand here before you today. As I said, I grew up at the beach, swimming in the ocean. When I was a child, one of my favorite things to do was go to the beach and swim out behind the surf line and just enjoy the peace and solitude of the ocean. That was even then where I would go. That was my centering place. My mother told me just recently that for my first birthday, my parents gave me a boat ride on the Colorado River. And there I was, 1 year old, probably still in diapers, and my mother could barely keep me from trying to climb out of the boat and get in the water. I kept trying to get in and touch the water, get in, and even at the age of 1, I guess I knew my fate. And I went on to have a very brief but illustrious competitive swimming career from the ages of 13 to 15. Girls just didn't swim much in the late 60s when I came of age. But during that time, I used to do the La Jolla Rough Water Swim 1 mile swim at that time. And the great channel swimming legend, Florence Chadwick, would always come and say a few words of inspiration to the kids at the awards podium. And she would be there spinning her tales of her days in Dover and her English Channel swims. And there I was at 13. I decided right then and there that when I grow up, I'm going to swim the English Channel. Well, I told my mother, Mommy, when I grow up, I'm going to swim the English Channel. And her comment was, well, that won't pay the bills. She was right. But that's okay, it was worth it. And then during that time, I was a fairly decent swimmer, and so they didn't really have any good girls' sports programs in the high schools yet. There was no Title IX, no college swimming for girls. You basically quit at 15. The 15 to 17 age group would empty out as we would all put aside our childhood games and work on getting our MRS degree in college. And, you know, you wanted to date you didn't want green hair while you were dating, and so you kind of quit. But during that time, they put me on the boys' swim team at La Jolla High School. And back then I could beat all the boys, and so I earned an A in boys PE in high school. But then there was just nowhere for girls to go with swimming, so I quit. And I came back to the sport from the world of normal people at the age of 40 when I was suddenly single. And, you know, I'd gotten married, had a business. I was not a collegiate star, an Olympian or anything. I just suddenly single at 40, and I thought, God, I'm going to be dating again. I want to look my best. So I thought I better start exercising. I remembered my childhood sport of swimming and how much I used to enjoy it. So I joined the Mission Beach Plunge in San Diego because it was an indoor pool and I didn't want to be cold. So every Sunday afternoon, I would go and I'd swim 20 yards the width of the pool, and it was like 83-degree warm pool. Sit and wait on the wall, swim the width of the pool again for a half an hour or so, as long as I could take every Sunday afternoon. And that was my starting point. And about a month later, some of the kids from the pool talked me into entering this 1-mile ocean swim. It was a race, and I thought, I can't do that. I can't swim a mile in the ocean. I did that when I was 13, but I can't do it now. I'm 40. I'm too old. But nonetheless, I got up that day and I beach entered the race, and I decided, okay, I'm going to give it my best shot. If I can't do it, I can always just swim into the shore. So I ended up finishing, and I'll tell you, nobody was more surprised that I finished that 1-mile ocean swim than me. I went home and I did it the old-fashioned way. I called all my friends to tell them what I'd done, because of course there wasn't Facebook yet then. So that was the start of my open water swimming, and I liked it. I started entering races and winning medals, and one thing led to another, and Bob West at the Cove, when are you going to swim your first channel, Ann? So I booked my first Catalina Channel attempt, thinking, well, the water's going to be 70 degrees, and you know, sure, okay, other people are starting to do this. I can do it too. I'm a good swimmer. Well, I was too vain to gain, and I didn't do enough cold water acclimation, and we had a bit of a cold summer, and I got too cold and couldn't finish my first attempt. And so as I was running through the galley of the escort boat to heading for the hot shower where I could hide in my humiliation and the agony of defeat for not being able to do the swim, one of my crew members was sitting in the galley and goes, well, so Annie, you're going to try this again, aren't you? Hell no, was my resounding response. I mean, that was my inauspicious beginning to my channel swimming career. Well, from that day in 1999, it was 5 years later that I swam the English Channel both ways without stopping. And so I didn't let that get the better of me, and I didn't pay attention to my own statement, hell no, because now it's hell no, don't quit. But there were a few people that were really instrumental in my journey from my inauspicious beginning to the two-way, and especially for the two-way. I want to thank Mike Oram and the Channel Swimming and Piloting Federation, Frida Streeter, Nora Toledano, my good friend, who really, you gave me the keys to unlock in my mind how to set up the swim. And thank you, I couldn't have done it without you. And Marcy McDonald and Dave Parcells, they all helped me find the courage to try the two-way. And I especially want to thank my escort pilot Lance Oram and the first mate Derek Carter for helping me find the courage to finish the swim. I mean, I'm not a world-class swimmer, I'm just a regular person, and I'll tell you what, I mean, I was so at my edge during that swim. It wasn't a nice day, it was kind of stormy and cold anyway, and I just don't take the cold so well. I was so at my edge, I felt like crying, but the tears wouldn't come for most of the swim. I was shivering and swimming at the same time. I dared not stop too long on my feet. I couldn't stop moving because the shivering would take over and I wouldn't be able to continue. I went from feed to feed every half hour to talking myself into doing 5 more minutes. And then probably for about the last 2 hours of that swim, it was literally one stroke at a time, focusing all of my attention on turning my head to breathe without inhaling water in the choppy seas that were there that day, and just pulling as much water as efficiently as I could to go forward. And once I saw the cliffs looming ahead of me, the cliffs of St. Margaret's in Dover, I knew I could do the swim. And I couldn't have done any of this without the support of my friends, all the volunteers, and everyone that's been with me all along. One of the things that I remember from especially my unsuccessful swims is being the little swimmer down in the water and looking up at the side of this boat like a big wall and having all of my friends lined up at the top of this wall cheering for me. Now, I know this happened at all my swims, but I particularly remember it for my unsuccessful swims. So maybe they weren't so unsuccessful after all. Maybe I didn't finish, but there's really so much more to this sport than just the details and the times. but it's the friends you make. The accomplishments are great, but the real takeaway here is what we can give back to the sport and the wonderful friends that we can share this with. Best friends for life, new ones and old ones, that we can share this with our whole life. And I'm so lucky that I've been able to come full circle in some ways. I'm now the channel swimmer on the podium at the La Jolla Rough Water Swim, handing out medals, trophies, and inspiration. And I'm still swimming with the boys' swim team at La Jolla High School, although I can only beat some of them now, not all of them. But now I swim with the girls too, because PE is now co-ed, and the girls have sports now too. But now I'm their coach. And the best part, I'm still swimming, but just for fun, beyond the surf line at the very same beach I swam at 50 years ago as a child. So, thank you so much.